fast. How can they right that ship? A basketball expert joins us to discuss it on Tider Insider TV, which starts right now.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Well, it's B.J. Millican tonight, but if you want to get drafted, Rodney, into the NFL, it's probably good that you perform well at the Combine. They wrapped that up today. 12 Alabama players were invited. Only 6 fully participated. Coming up in a bit, we'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly from Indianapolis. And welcome in, everybody, to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm B.J. Millican, sitting in for Gary Harris, who is on assignment. And, Rodney, there was a big discussion about this in the sports office. I don't like stealing other people's things. I know this is Gary's thing, but I'm going to do it in honor of Gary Harris. So, Gary, this Diet Pepsi's for you. Tastes good. I know that's Gary's thing. So, tonight we're kicking things off with a little basketball talk. We're joined now by SEC TV analyst and Birmingham Southern AD Joe Dean Jr. Joe, first of all, thank you for being with us tonight. First off, what is your assessment of where this Alabama basketball team is at this point in the year?
Well, it's definitely been a disappointing year. I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, they were preseason ranked 5th in the preseason SEC poll, and they sit right now at, I believe they're 5 and 8 overall in the league. I think the one thing you have to realize, and we all have to realize, is that back in the spring, last spring, after the season was over, Trevor Lacey walked in and unexpectedly left the program. He was a double-figure scorer and arguably the best shooter on the team. And then Devontae Pollard had some legal issues in the spring that forced him to leave school as well. Those were 2 kids that would have really had an impact on this Alabama team. And when you lose kids of that caliber with that kind of experience that late in the year, you're not going to be able to go out and find replacements, and they didn't. And I think that's hurt them. It's hurt their depth. It's hurt their shooting ability. Pollard was a kid that could have scored a little bit in the lane area, which has been a weakness for Alabama this year.
Joe, as an athletic director yourself, when Bill Battle evaluates Anthony Grant at the end of the season, will he have to take into account Grant's ability to sell the Alabama basketball program to the community?
Well, it all depends on what you agreed to on the front end when he came in. Was that part of the job description? Was that something that the Alabama administration expected from him, to go out and beat the drum and promote and try to sell himself? That's not really his nature. He's a little more reserved as a personality, and I would say probably that's a weakness for him, because I think in the state of Alabama, as we all know, football dominates so much throughout the year that to create interest in basketball, you've got to kind of step outside the box a little bit, do some different things, and be creative and try to get people's attention so they'll focus a little bit on the sport of basketball and on your program in particular. So, I mean, if I was evaluating Anthony, I would say that's an area he probably needs to do a little more in. But he's an excellent coach. And if you promote your program and build it up and create that kind of environment at the home basketball games and create excitement, that's the kind of program that high school players want to come and play in. So it kind of all fits together.
And, Joe, since we are in Alabama, does the football program's success somehow elevate expectations for the basketball program?
Well, I think the expectations should be high. I mean, I think Anthony Grant wants the expectations to be high. I mean, the football program's obviously a national program that competes for the national title every year, and they've won national championships in softball and gymnastics and golf, and baseball's been good through the years. So the men's basketball program really should be a top 20 program, and I know that's what Anthony Grant and his staff are trying to do. So I don't think I have a problem with the expectation level. I think you want that, because if you are able to win and be successful, the fans will come and they'll pack Coleman Coliseum, and it'll create the kind of environment that you want that's going to attract good players to the program.
And finally, Joe, what's your feeling on how this situation will be handled at the conclusion of the season? Will we see Coach Grant back at Alabama?
I think Anthony Grant is an outstanding individual, a man of character, and who's a very good coach with a great background. He's a good player himself in college. And I think Alabama could do a lot worse, I'll say that. So I think at this stage, they just need to be patient, take a step back. He's got two really good players sitting out next year, Ricky Tarrant and an international kid that's about 6'9", I hear is very good. And he's already signed 3 players for next year, including arguably the best player in the state in Justin Coleman. So I think help's on the way, and I think Alabama will be much better next year. When you evaluate any coach, you look at the man and you look at the characteristics and the talent and the ability that he or she possesses. Are they capable of recruiting good student athletes? Are they capable of coaching them up, motivating them, getting them to class, helping them to earn their college degree, making sure they behave themselves off the floor and off the playing fields? And if you have a guy that you believe can do all those things, then you stay with them and you give them, you be patient with them, especially when they have a down year, which everybody is going to have a down year at some point in time. It's a tough league. I mean, 14 major schools that are all pouring a lot of money and resources into their programs. They're not going to. The other schools aren't going to take step backs. They're trying to move forward just like Alabama is. So, I think I'll be very surprised if Anthony Grant is not the coach at Alabama next year, and I think they'll have a very good season, and he'll keep moving forward with that program.
All right. Thank you very much. Joe Dean Jr. right there. Thanks for coming on tonight. Rodney, we heard what Joe had to say. Obviously, yesterday we hear a lot. C.M. Newton, former Alabama coach, talked to the Tip-Off Club in Birmingham, said that Coach Grant needed to be left alone. What are your thoughts?
Well, again, as fans, I think people sometimes jump the gun real quickly, BJ, and they want to pull the trigger, and they think maybe he should be a little bit farther along with his program right now, and possibly so. But sometimes some programs take a little bit longer to turn the corner.
Absolutely.
And you look at him, I think what Joe said there at the end, talking about, his character, who he is as a person, who he is as a coach, how he leads this program. He runs a very clean program, and he does things the right way. Those are all fine. Of course, you have to win basketball games, but he's recruited well. He's got a great recruiting class coming in. And I tend to agree with him. I think, people do need to be a little bit more patient. Let's see where it goes from here.
And it's kind of, they had all the things happen with the transfers, and it happened at the worst time because they had one of the toughest schedules in the country this year with Wichita State, with Xavier, with all those teams that they played at the early part of the non-conference schedule, and that's just kind of killed them. It snowballed on them at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and sometimes, like I go back to what I said earlier about coaches, sometimes, when they don't turn it around in a specified period of time, people think they should. Bill McCartney, when he was at Colorado, and this is a different sport, a long time ago, whatever, Colorado almost pulled the trigger on him, but they let him kind of wait it out, so to speak, and he turned that program into a national powerhouse.
Absolutely. Frank Beamer is another guy at Virginia Tech who had some pretty bad years.
That's right.
All right, we're getting cranked up right here on Tider Insider. Next, we're going to show you a different side to AJ McCarron, a little bit off the field stuff, and talk about how he did at the NFL Combine. Plus, it's crowded backfield. Next, we continue our spring practice preview by looking at the running back position. And as always, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, tweets. You see all the information right there on the screen. Interact with us on Tider Insider TV. That's why I have the laptop out here. I'm watching the tweets. You can send us one by tweeting with the hashtag Tider Insider TV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV returns right after this. Back on TITV. Now, we normally see A.J. McCarron, the calm, collected quarterback. He's going nuts right here. Thanks to Catherine Webb, we saw A.J. going crazy over a video game. McCarron's supermodel girlfriend posted the video on Instagram saying that he'd been trying for 4 nights in a row to beat that game, which I assume is an MMA game. Rodney, that kind of looks like me when I beat Mike Tyson in Punch-Out for the first time when I was
hear you.
Welcome back to Tider Insider TV. I'm B.J. Millican, sitting in tonight for Gary Harris alongside Rodney Orr, as always. Rodney, let's talk about A.J. How does he translate to the next level? He obviously had the Combine this weekend in Indianapolis. What do scouts take away from his performance this week?
Well, first of all, I think when you look at him, he had an opportunity to work in an NFL-type system here at Alabama. He's really well coached and well disciplined. I think, when you look at, he had a lot of really good players around him, and so people kind of knocked him, just said he was basically a game manager. But again, as Coach Saban's pointed out many times, to be a successful quarterback, you've got to know how to manage a game. And I think that's key is, he very few turnovers. He was very productive in a positive way. And So I think from that and his leadership, I think all of those things, I think, you know, certainly he's going to have an opportunity.
Absolutely. And another of the guys that we saw just a second ago, Kevin Norwood, he might have helped himself out a bunch. He had a great 40 time. Guys like Adrian Hubbard had good showings out there. He ran a good 40. Who are some of the other guys who might maybe not get as much of the pub, but who will end up having a really good I guess good day when the draft comes around?
I really thought that, you know, you mentioned Kevin Norwood, and I think he's one of the more underrated players, was one of the more underrated players in the country, you know, with his ability and, you know, had great leaping ability, when, you know, going up for the ball, as you mentioned, his speed, but he was so clutch. I mean, when Alabama needed a big play, you know, he was there. C.J. Mosley, obviously a first-round guy. Adrian Hubbard has all the tools. You know, he was an outstanding high school basketball player. You know, Clinton Diggs, Clinton Diggs probably going to be a top 15, top 20 pick by what most people are saying. And so, again, I think, you know, when you look at these guys, certainly Alabama's going to have its share of first-rounders once again.
Right. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, Kevin, I heard someone on Twitter, this was a great comparison, compared him to Marvin Harrison, a Marvin Harrison type guy. Maybe not real flashy, but he gets the job done, and that's what he did for his entire time at Alabama. That was some of the projections from CBS Sports that you just saw. No Alabama running backs at the Combine this year, which seems like the first time in forever that there wasn't any Alabama running backs, and that's because they're all back, it seems.
That's right.
We're just 18 days away from the start of spring practice. Tonight we're continuing our spring practice preview by looking at that running back position. Rodney, they're loaded headed into spring.
Well, you know, T.J. Yeldon's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. There he is there. And, you know, so we know what he can do. Derrick Henry had a great Sugar Bowl. We know about that. He had over 100 yards rushing on about 8 carries and had the 67-yard reception for a touchdown. Kenyon Drake, you know, brings all that speed and elusiveness. And, you know, maybe he's set to have a big year, too. And, you know, some young guys. Alti Tenpenny's a guy that was a freshman last year, played some out of the state of Arkansas, is a tremendously talented guy. I mean, he reminds me physically, when you look at him, of a young Eddie Lacy. Tyron Jones is another guy to Marietta Walton, Georgia, who was, you know, highly acclaimed coming out of high school. And it's going to be interesting to watch Tyron this spring and see how he comes along. And, you know, Justin Fowler's kind of that, you know, guy who can line up at the fullback spot. He can line up at tailback, one back, H-back. He can kind of do it all, and he was really valuable as a receiver coming out of the backfield, especially down near the goal line. So, you know, they've got a lot of guys coming back, certainly.
And the guy at the bottom of that list, Bo Scarborough, said that he's better than anybody.
Yeah. Well, you know, and, you know, really, when you're talking about athletically, Bo Scarborough is probably as talented maybe as any high school running back in the country. I know Leonard Fournette, you know, most people think he's the best, but certainly Bo Scarborough is a very talented player.
And he's got a shot.
Yeah, I think he's got a shot to compete. Now, one thing about it is, you know, it's hard to walk in and just play. You look at a guy like Derrick Henry, as talented as he was. He had a lot to learn about, you know, pass protection and those types of things, running routes. So, again, it takes time, and I think the key is these young guys need to be patient, learn, develop. Look at Eddie Lacy. I mean, he started, you know, his fourth year in the program as a redshirt junior, and now look at him, Rookie of the Year in the NFL. Again, his patience paid off.
A lot of talent, no doubt. As I said, less than 3 weeks from the beginning of spring drills for the Tide. Next week, we're going to continue our position-by-position breakdown. We'll look at another key position, Anthony Steen, Cyrus Kwanjo, gone. Who replaces them on the offensive line? That's going to be a big topic of discussion. That's going to be next week on Tider Insider TV. Now, next up, we're going to look at how the Alabama softball team did over the weekend in the Easton Bama Bash, including a milestone win for Coach Pat Murphy. That's coming up. Also, as always, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information right there on the screen. Interact with us right now on your little Twitter machine. You can go there and contact us on Twitter, or you can call us. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The mighty Tider Insider TV returns after the break. Well, it was mostly a good weekend to be home for the Alabama softball team. Pat Murphy's group won 4 out of 5 in the Easton Bama Bash. They're 12-3 on the year, and the win on Saturday gave Pat Murphy his 800th win at Alabama. Congratulations to Coach Murphy and the Tide softball team. Definitely a little bit of a dynasty over there, if you can call it that. Welcome back to TITV. It's time for you to chime in and be a part of the show. First off, we're going to go to BT. BT, how are you doing?
Doing fine, BJ. How about you? How about you, Rodney?
Hey, BT,
Great.
doing well.
Hey guys, what's your think the future for this team?
Well, I mean, you know, they've got what, 3 or 4 games left in the regular season. They go to Ole Miss tomorrow. They never have much luck at Ole Miss. Then they've got Auburn coming here, and then they got to play Kentucky. I mean, and then they end up with I think Arkansas. So it's going to be tough for them to finish out positively, to be honest. They're not going to be the kind of team that goes on the road and gets a win, you know, and then beats Kentucky. That's just not the kind of team this is. They're kind of trending downward. I don't know if they're going to get many more wins.
Well, and I think, too, I think the game against Missouri this past weekend, you know, certainly was a big win. And I think that, you know, we'd like to see if maybe they can build on that. Maybe a confidence builder and kind of see the team kind of, you know, they've lost a lot of close games. Even on the road, they've lost some close games. You never know when those, you know, those balls that get stuck in the between the iron and the backboard, when they might actually go in.
Well,
so.
and you hate to try to chalk up moral victories, but you play Kentucky close on the road. I mean, that's something positive to take into the tournament. And you never know. Remember Georgia a few years ago got hot in the tournament, in the SEC tournament, ended up going to the NCAA tournament. Let's go to Mike in Tuscaloosa. Mike, how's it going? Mike, you there? Hello, Mike. Well, Mike had a comment that Anthony Grant should be fired. That was his comment. So I guess, you know, some people have their opinions. We obviously have been talking about it for most of the show. You know, I get the frustration. You know, no one likes to lose. That's part of the thing that, you know, not everybody can win all the time, and people are frustrated. But like Joe Dean Jr. said, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of patience on the fan base's part to, you know, let Coach Grant kind of get this thing right, to get the ship righted again.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. Again, to reiterate what I said earlier, I think sometimes, you know, you have to be a little bit more patient than maybe you really want to be. And I think in this case, you know, to me, Anthony Grant, the way he runs his program, the way he's recruited, I think he maybe deserves that patience.
Absolutely. Next up on the show, another home series in the books for Alabama baseball. How's their record looking as they prepare to hit the road for the first time? And coming up, more of your phone calls, emails, tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with us. Go ahead and do that. Give us a call, send us an email, tweet us. We'll be back on Tider Insider TV right after this. Alabama baseball is very consistent early in the 2014 season. Friday loss followed by a Saturday win and a Sunday win. That's how Bama closed the Stephen F. Austin series this week. They hit the road against Southern Miss on Wednesday night and at nationally ranked Louisiana Lafayette this weekend. So a tough getting going on Fridays for Coach Gaspard, but once they hit the weekend, they really like the weekend.
Yeah, it's going to really be interesting watching that team this year to see how they've progressed. You know, they got some good young players.
Absolutely. We're going to go to one email here real quick, and it's about Blake Sims. Steve Dora says, why not Blake Sims at quarterback? So that's one of those just kind of questions. Well, why not? Let's try him.
Well, first of all, I think, you know, when you look at Blake Sims, I think he'll certainly continue to have a role, whatever it is. If he's the starter, if they feel like he's the best guy for the job and, you know, can do what they want him to do out there, I think then, like he said, why not? Again, but I still think it has to be proven, and I think there's some other guys that are going to really be competing for the job. Obviously, this spring we've talked about all those guys, and, you know, you can't forget about Jacob Coker will be here in June, and we'll start going through the summer workouts, and you know he's going to obviously be a major factor as the starter.
Well, and he's got the most experience that anyone will have coming in. So I mean, he's obviously got a leg up, and has the most game experience. And you know, like the emailer said, why not? You never know. We're coming back to wrap up this edition of TI TV. We'll take a look at the week ahead at Crimson Tide Athletics. We are live from the campus of the University of Alabama. Very wonderfully beautiful night. Coming back after the break, so stay with us. Welcome back to TI TV. Another busy week for the Crimson Tide. Women's hoops team is at Auburn on Thursday. LSU comes to Foster Auditorium Sunday. The Easton Crimson Classic for softball is this weekend, and a huge, I'm putting the emphasis on huge, gymnastics meet against the defending champs, the Florida Gators, on Friday night. That's, I think, 3 versus 4 in the national standing, so that's big time. We do want to get to one more email. We decided we were feeling generous. We had a little bit more time. This email is about HaHa Clinton Dix. Where will HaHa Clinton Dix be drafted? Asked Jerome from Hueytown. My best guess is in the first round between anywhere. I saw some mock drafts earlier before the combine that had him as a possible top 10 guy. Since then, I've seen him anywhere from 10th all the way down to 20th. So obviously, as we see him running here at the combine today, he ran very well, and a lot of people had great things to say about him.
I think he came in at, what, around 206 pounds, something like that. And he ran a 4.5 40, ran a 4.52 also. So, you know, he's a very smart guy, very intelligent. And, you know, I think when you look at his athletic ability and his intelligence and speed and all those things, I would agree with what you said, probably between 10 and 20.
Right. And the thing with safeties, I mean, he may not have the fastest time, but sometimes as a safety, you don't really have to have that cornerback-like speed. You don't have to have the 4.2.
Well, and he's got great instincts. I mean, he understands the game, and when you know where you're supposed to be, sometimes you get there faster than guys who are maybe faster in the 40. So he has a lot of understanding for the game and great instincts.
Well, and you know, I sit here and say 4.5 is not that fast. If I got out there and ran, I'd probably run, I don't know, a 5.8.
Can you run 40 yards? I mean,
I hope so. I mean, I can try.
Well, I'm not sure I could.
We'll try to race afterwards and see who has the fastest 40 time. That's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank Rodney for letting me sit in tonight. Gary returns next week. Thanks to all our entire crew. You may have noticed Rodney's nice shirt tonight. The ones that Gary and him are always rocking are the official, original elephant wear from the locker room. Jealous of these guys for being so well dressed. But I can remedy that by going to the locker room's website, www.locker-room.biz, located on the University Strip. Don't forget, if you missed our interview with Joe Dean Jr., any of tonight's show, you can catch the replay at 10:35 or on WVUA.com. For Rodney Orr, Gary Harris, and everyone here watching, thank you so much. Good night.